It's Sunday, and you know what that means. It's time for Browns football, fantasy football, and betting previews right now. NFL Week 6 coming at you. Sick podcast with Andy McNamara.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, the sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
In the backfield, Latavius Murray. Huntley takes the shotgun snap. Back to pass. Looks. The ball got stripped away. In the air. The Browns fight for the ball. And it's picked up by Myles Garrett. He's going to score. Touchdown.
It's going to be sick.
All right, everybody. It's going to be a tough one. I'm not going to lie. Browns taking on the 49ers. Okay, we'll get some Browns 49ers previews off the top. Then we'll hit start sits for each of the important NFL games through this week. And hey, you got your fantasy football questions. You know what to do. Hashtag Ask Andy on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns, Instagram and TikTok at AndyMC Sports, in the chat too, live. You can, I'm just going to pull that up, make sure I see everybody there. You can put your notes in the chat as well. So yeah, man, we're going to jump right in and go. Okay, 49ers, Browns. To say I'm not optimistic, I guess would be a bit of an undersell, because folks, this is one of those games I'm not nervous. I don't have any expectations. I don't expect the Browns to win. I don't expect them to play well on offense. However, there are a couple of historical examples in the expansion era where the Browns did overcome, where the David to the opponent's Goliath, if you will. Now, we're stretching here. A lot has to happen. And out of those teams, out of those best case scenarios, those Goliath slaying moments, this Browns team, the defense, is clearly the best that they've had. So what do we look to at this 49ers team that first or second in offensive categories, dynamite on defense? What are we looking at? Well, there's a couple examples. The 2010 season, actually, the two that come to mind came from the 2010 season, was when they beat the Saints and when they beat the Patriots. Now, I have that ticket. Where is that? Right there. The ticket right there, the Browns. I'll show it to you. I still save it because Browns, Patriots, 2010. Similar scenario. Same with the Saints in 2010. Remember how good New Orleans was in 2010? It was, these teams are going to come in, put the boots to the Browns, and it's going to be over. Well, the Browns at that time, Eric Mangini was the coach, got creative. In that New Orleans Saints game, two special teams. Bubba Ventrone was on that team, actually, too. He was now the special teams coordinator for the Browns. They did like a Reggie Hodges punt return for 62 yards, a sneak. They did like a pass. Josh Cribbs was throwing it back, and they won the game. The Patriots game, that was the Peyton Hillis game, the game that really cemented him to get on that Browns or that Madden cover, if you remember that. And I was at that game with my dad. We were in the dog pound, and it went from a case just similar feeling to this. It was November, you go down loose. It was a beautiful day. It's like, let's have the football. Hopefully we don't get blown out. And by halftime, they were leading, and it's like, maybe we could win this thing. By the end, we're high-fiving. Everyone's drinking. Everyone's out. And it's sober. Colt McCoy was there. Peyton Hill was hurtling over people. Eric Mangini set up two separate game plans per half to take on Bill Belichick, and they did it. Now, this isn't the norm. These are outliers. This is a stretch, right? It's not going to be easy, but it has been done with a team that had much less talent around it overall. I'm looking at the weather right now in Cleveland. It was really rainy yesterday. Still going to be rainy today, 55 Fahrenheit. So if the weather can be bad, I think the Browns' best case is, and again, we're reaching here. It's like everything has to be bad. God has to strike down Nick with the Purdy with the lightning or something. The worse the weather is, the better it is for the Browns. If Kevin Stefanski smartens up and actually comes up with a game plan specific to a third-string quarterback like P.J. Walker, who, to his credit, 4-3 in career starts and wins as a quarterback, come with Carolina, and the XFL MVP, right, for the Houston, what were they, Roughnecks. Now, from our friend Tony Grossi, friend of show from ESPN Cleveland, the counter to what I'm saying is not great. P.J. Walker, I'm reading here from thelandondemand.com, P.J. Walker is going to be the 13th QB3 to start a game for the Browns in the expansion era. Cody Kessler was the earliest one to be the QB3 in game 3. Cody Kessler sucks so bad. Oh my gosh. The Browns QB3s are 0-12 in their first starts. Their average score losing 27.6 to 10.8. And their overall passer rating is 70.51. They've been sacked 33 times. There's been one QB4, Bruce Gradkowski in 2008. I remember that game in game 16 against the Steelers. His passer rating was 1.04. What I'm saying is there's a nice history of the Browns in the expansion era where things go wrong real quick. Okay? Maybe that's not the case. Look, what was shocking and dismaying last week was when it came out during the week, Dorian Thompson-Robinson said he didn't know he was starting until 10:30 a.m. last week. And then Kevin Stefanski, still I put blame. We did it earlier in the week on Tuesday's show. Didn't adjust the game plan. Said, well, all right, we're going to run the same game plan. That's a bad idea. I think anyone can tell you that. Well, now you're adjusting. You're having the game plan. Oh, by the way, Joel Bitonio's out. You're a Pro Bowl, possibly Hall of Fame left guard. So we got that. So you got Jed Wills, and you're going to have a backup right beside him. You don't think Nick Bosa is going to be salivating to get in on that? But Fred Warner got 2 Defensive Player of the Year caliber. The key for the Browns is this. When you have to pass the ball, get it out quick. Quick. That's what Brock Purdy does. Brock Purdy gets the ball out very fast. Doesn't give teams a chance to sack him. Get in the backfield. If you're going to run, you're going to have to draw them in, maybe take your shot. But especially on that left side, man, you better have an extra tight end or running back or something to help chip. Because that team's going to be coming at you. With Jed Wills, who struggled in pass protection. And now a backup left guard. Good gravy. So let me know. What are your Browns 49ers predictions? I'm hoping for a miracle. I'm not expecting one. I'm not stressed. We're going in loose. Hopefully don't get embarrassed. And if the weather's super bad, I hope so. Our buddy Grant, friend of show, he's on site. He's at the game. So we'll make sure we get some we'll get some updates from Grant throughout the day. And hopefully it's not too bad of a day for him. Okay. So Browns, 49ers, anything else popping in? Get your fantasy football questions in using hashtag AskAndy. Nathan's already popping in. Morning, Nathan. But let's bring in my guy, Shoaib Alli from Sportsnet. Talk some fantasy football. Show, how you doing, sir?
Good, man. Andy, how's it going? I heard you talking about QB3s for the Browns. Like, no love for Seneca Wallace? No love for, like, Thad Lewis? Austin Davis, I think, played a game for the Browns.
Listen, Seneca Wallace was a QB2, sir.
I guess that's true.
I always kind of like Seneca Wallace. He kind of zipped around. He was okay, I guess. Oh, Show. My God. We're talking about, though, I knew you'd have some appreciation for XFL MVP and leading passer all time for the Houston Roughnecks through all 8 games they played. P.J. Walker playing for the Browns today.
It's true. P.J. Walker led the league in passing yards and passing touchdown, and then COVID ruined everything, as it has so many things.
That's right. It ruined his but you know what? He left on top, left as a legend.
He did.
Right? So why not? And he's 4-3 as a starter. As I go, I'm sure by kickoff show, I'll be like, well, if 18 things happen, then the Browns can win, and then, probably won't go too well. Probably not.
The Browns defense is still pretty good. It's just the offense right now. By the way, have you seen? I'm sure you have, but have you seen that picture of David Njoku? He posted the selfie of himself like after the fire. I saw that, and all I could think of was, how did this guy play a football game? Like actually set foot on an NFL field looking like that. I couldn't believe. I feel kind of bad for the guy. I mean, that's like a wild accident, but I kind of thought it was like he had like a singed cheekbone, not like, his entire face. It was wild.
Same. Yeah, I thought maybe crisp the eyebrows off a little bit, whatever. But no, it's like the skin, and I'm sure people have seen it, but if not, it's on his Instagram and the Browns, and it's all over the place. His skin, it layers. You can see we're off. It was what, and then we didn't see the arm. But to think you had to put on a helmet with that, and not only that, Joe, he had his best game of the season.
Yeah,
it's wild. So you know what? Okay, I'm not going to question Deshaun Watson's toughness and whatever, but if you just look at it on the surface, bruised rotator cuff, burnt off face, flesh, singed off. layers peeled off, played and had his best game. It's like tough to complain if you're like right under there, that rotator cuff, and then Njoku's like, hold my beer, bro.
I honestly bet, I bet Andy that he I'm not saying Deshaun Watson is faking by any means, but I actually do wonder if in situations like this, when the coaching staff thinks maybe they're like 50-50 to play, they're like, hey, look, we're playing the 49ers this week. They're probably one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're undefeated. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. You want to sit this one out? It's going to be the Colts next week. You want to play them next week and heal up? And he's like, sure. Probably.
Let's get old PJ in there. Oh boy, the weather's supposed to be bad though, show. So I'm looking. The over under right now set at 36. Oof. Like, and this is a 49ers team that scores in bunches. So Vegas knows the weather. This could be like an ugly, and probably that's the best case for the Browns, right? If you're playing a game that ends like 14-13, you got a shot. You don't want a 36-point or 40 burger popped up to have to keep pace.
Are you starting all the 49ers then today? Like you're starting everyone?
Correct. That is correct, sir. Yes. I'm starting McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, all that. But again, with the weather, like we're starting to, not quite yet overall, but we're starting to get into those weather cases where we have to start tracking that type of thing. And
the wind coming off of Lake Erie is not very kind to fantasy players.
No, and it's been super rainy and all that. So we'll keep track. Those are. But Joel Bitonio, also left guard of the Browns, as you heard, out. So that's more. Less than ideal news for Cleveland there. We have another London game show. They're really 3 in a row for London. Ravens ahead of the Titans 6-3 with the second quarter just getting underway. So we're Browns fans or Titans fans today, hoping they can pull off an upset there. So we got that. And if we start rolling through the fantasy football start sits, and remember guys, get your questions in. Nathaniel popped in. George plays 0-1s in the chat. Hey, George, we'll get to you in a little bit there. I think that's Russick show. I think he's popping in.
No.
I miss Georgie. I love him. You get your comments in there on Twitter at SNS Ali, at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns. Use hashtag Ask Andy. We'll get to our Danger Zone picks as well a little bit later on in the show. But let's start rolling through these, man. We got Commanders at Falcons. And again, the Falcons are 3-2, but show like, I don't know. Like that seems like a pretty fake 3-2, and they're 1.5-point favorites here.
Yeah, the Commanders are. I mean, these are both teams that are, I think, at best mediocre, right? So, I mean, people often say whenever two bad teams play each other that there's not going to be a lot of scoring. I sometimes subscribe to the opposite because there's a lot of mistakes that go on, and because of that, there's actually more scoring. Sometimes not always to the guys you expect, so that doesn't always help you. But I mean, I think you're still going to start all of your regular guys for the Falcons, and by regular guys, I really just mean Bijan Robinson. Like I don't know anyone who really feels that comfortable starting. Even Tyler Algier, who had a pretty great game 1 of the season and hasn't been all that consistent since then. So you're not really starting him. You're not going to really feel great starting. I guess Drake London can be started if you're in a real pinch, but he is nothing more than a flex play, I think, at this point. At best. And then you got Desmond Ridder himself, Kyle Pitts. I'm not sure any of those guys are guys you really want to be relied on. Like I legitimately saw Kyle Pitts get dropped in a couple of leagues, and I thought on the surface that was crazy. But you know what? It's actually not that crazy. Like he's enormously talented, but he just doesn't produce from a fantasy perspective. The crazy thing on the Washington side, though, Andy, is like Jahan Dotson was viewed to be, he was drafted very highly, and he himself almost feels like nothing more than a flex play at this point. He hasn't been very consistent at all. It almost feels like Logan Thomas is a better play than a lot of other Washington Commanders pass catchers this week. Yeah,
Terry McLaurin, you can start him confidently. Sam Howell's just, that's just a guy, right? That's just up and down.
He's been better than I thought, though.
He has, to be honest, yes. Fantasy-wise, I don't know. Remember on bye as well, Packers and Steelers, in case you need to make any adjustments coming out of there. I got to say as well, Show, did you see on Thursday Night Football, Broncos versus Chiefs, Steve Smith Jr. rip and destroy Jerry Jeudy? Just as a side note, did you see that?
Great. Yeah, it was pretty great. Steve Smith. He's never been one to hold back, like ever. But he really did Like he was calling him out left, right, and center, saying like,
Yes!
"Call me if you think you're going to trade for him." Right? It was pretty funny.
It was like Jerry Jeudy must have mouthed off. And it's like Steve Smith. It borderlined like the part of me that loves, we're wrestling fans. The part of me was like, that's a hell of a promo, right? The other part, I'm like, you're still network TV. Like, is there like a level? I know you want that balance. Like that was, if you're looking at it just from a professionalism standpoint, that was horribly unprofessional. That was disastrous, unprofessional. But it got people talking for a game that probably wasn't too interesting. So I guess it brought in some ratings. I don't know.
If Jerry Jeudy gets traded, and it looks like he will get traded, it's to someone. I don't know to who, but to someone. Let's just say he gets traded, though. Does that make Cortland Sutton more valuable? You and I were texting about Cortland Sutton over the last week. Like, does that de facto make Cortland Sutton the WR1 in Denver and essentially a week in, week out start?
Yes, I'd say it has to. It's just so like these Broncos, they're just so inconsistent and terrible. Like we're into the point where we have to again separate real from fantasy. And in the fantasy side, yeah, you think he should. I think it also bumps up Marvin Mims as well.
Sure.
I don't think he's talked about enough, as he's had some nice games too. So I think it does. But I just wanted to touch on that side play. I was just like, wow, that was a wild take by Steve Smith. Vikings versus Bears. Now the big news, of course, Justin Jefferson, the MVP, he's gone for at least 4 games. So Jordan Addison, a hot play now. KJ Osborne is one of the most picked up guys, of course, also. And I just want to see here because Addison had that. He's been removed. Okay, injury designation, had an ankle, fully participated late in the week. So he's cleared. I would think, you got to be looking as the 1-2. Addison and TJ Hawkinson today should be getting a big workload for the Vikings.
Yeah, I would temper expectations with KJ Osborne, like you were saying, just because not because I think he is a bad player by any means, but he's been there for so long at this point, a number of years, a number of seasons, and he hasn't emerged to the point where I think even Kirk Cousins clearly has the guys he trusts, and it already feels like Jordan Addison, and I know he was drafted very highly, so there's an incentive to do this, but Jordan Addison just feels like he's already leapfrogged KJ Osborne in like a couple of months, essentially, when KJ Osborne's been there for years. And Osborne has already had some issues with drops and so on. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure he has some value and should be rostered. It's just, I don't know that beyond, like you're saying, Hawkinson, Addison, those are not the guys those are the guys I think I'd rather rely on than certainly than KJ Osborne. I mean, the thing with Justin Jefferson too, Andy, is, I mean, they said he's going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks when he's eligible to come off the IR, but he's also like, there's no real incentive for him to come back. If the Vikings stink and he hasn't gotten a new contract yet, like what's the point of rushing your star guy back only to potentially suffer an even worse injury?
You're right. Yeah, that's true. And so if you're a Justin Jefferson owner and you haven't sort of backfilled with an Addison or even like an Osborne's popped in the past when given the opportunity, but definitely, like you said, not a sure thing, maybe a flex type.
Right.
You got to start kind of panicking a little bit. I got a question for you guys here. Okay. In one of my leagues, I'm like razor thin at running back. Wide receiver, I'm pretty stacked. I have Devonta Smith, Christian Kirk, Adam Thielen, and I have Jordan Addison as well. Adam Thielen to me seems like the obvious one to bring out, but he's been so red hot. I have currently Jordan Addison on my bench out of those. Is that nuts? Devonta Smith versus the Jets, Christian Kirk versus Indy, or Adam Thielen versus Miami. I don't, and that's my flex. Like, I don't know. I want to get Jordan Addison in, but I don't know if I should.
That's a tough one. I would almost bench. I think you have to start Adam Thielen. He's essentially been a WR1. He's been one of the most productive wide receivers in the NFL this year from a fantasy perspective. Yeah. So I think you got to get him in there. I would almost bench. Who are the Jags playing? They're playing the Colts, right?
Indianapolis.
Yeah. So I might bench Christian Kirk, honestly. Just because Jordan Addison I would put over Kirk. Probably would put Devonta Smith over Kirk. And you know what? I had seen that Sauce Gardner was ruled out due to a concussion for the Jets. So the Jets defense is usually pretty stout, but might not be this week in particular with no Sauce.
Okay, I'm doing it. I'm putting Addison in over Kirk. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, okay. Now I'm nervous. There we are. Good Lord. Oh boy. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Okay, we got Viking and the Bears. Look, 1-4, but Justin Fields playing much better. Boy, that DJ Moore. Holy cow. Where did that game come from, Show? Like that was a league killer. I played him against one of my leagues, and it was just like, well, guess I'm losing this week. Right? There's
I
no
actually
hope.
played in one of my leagues. I had both Justin Fields and DJ Moore, and I won that. You know, the crazy thing is, I won that game. My team scored almost 200 points in half PPR, and
God.
I barely won that game. I won that game by like less than 10 points because the other guy had like Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and all these guys go off on Sunday or Monday night or whatever it was. So it's pretty funny. But yeah, hey, Justin Fields and DJ Moore have been much better as of late. Fields actually in the last 2 weeks, after having a miserable start to the year, the last 2 weeks he's actually been pretty consistent to the point where he's thrown multiple touchdowns, rushed for multiple rushing yards. Even if it's only like 50 or 60 rushing yards, he's still been rushing a little bit better. And he hasn't turned the ball over quite as much. So, I mean, maybe they're letting him play, as he was saying, less robotically. But the other half of it is no Khalil Herbert. He is, I guess, on the IR.
Yep.
And I think Roshan Johnson also out this week. So I'm not sure beyond Justin Fields and DJ Moore. Maybe Cole Kmet, if you're like in the pinchiest of pinches, I guess he can be started. But I don't know that you're starting anyone else beyond Fields and Moore, really.
Here's the thing, Show. Donta Foreman, fourth man up. We talk about third and fourth string Browns quarterbacks. Donta Foreman, remember the Simpsons episode where Homer's like, the two sweetest words, default. Donta Foreman, Show. Khalil Herbert, IR. Roshan Johnson out. Travis Homer out. Donta Foreman, they're like, we always believed in you, pal. Come on up. Come on up. Have a go. Donta Foreman's the number one, and they brought up Darrington Evans, who used to be with the Titans. Remember, he was sort of like that handcuffy guy with Derrick Henry. Like, here's the thing, though. Donta Foreman, there are crazier plays you could make because, remember, he's been on a couple teams, and again, when given the chance, has flashed, has popped up some fantasy points. I don't think that's the craziest play if you're in running back trouble and need someone today. Like Donta Foreman, on paper, if they're going to run, he should be getting the handoff. So maybe.
You know what? Again, like they in theory, they have to hand the ball to someone, and they have handed the ball to Khalil Herbert enough times to make you think they actually have like some passing semblance of a run game. But I can't get out of the back of my head that it'll end up being just more running for Justin Fields. You know what I mean? Like there'll just be more, because one of the complaints about Justin Fields early this season was that they didn't have very many designed runs for him. Like not scrambles, because any quarterback who can run is always going to scramble when they can, but actual designed runs. And it looks like they've been doing that a little bit more in these past couple of weeks. So I just wonder if that's an even larger part of the game plan. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Donta Foreman, when he was filling in for, was it the Panthers? He was pretty good. So
and Texans too at one point.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's not. He's not nobody. But at the same time, the Bears have just been so bad. I wonder if they can really sustain like three really good fantasy players.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's dicey, but at least what we want is clarity, right? Opportunity equals success in fantasy football, and at least he should get the opportunity. Some injury updates from Adam Schefter of where is it? ESPN. Dolphins running back Devin Achane is likely to miss only 4 games. So we know he was out, and there was that bubble of, is it going to be more? Like you said, Show, unlike Justin Jefferson, who could very well be out an extended time, looks like it will only be 4 games for Miami. Jeff Wilson, who is expected to be activated off the IR this week, was not, which means any question we get about Raheem Mostert versus someone else, start Raheem Mostert. It's all him today.
I guess the backup is what? I guess the backup is now Savon Ahmed.
Yeah.
I guess he's the backup today. Well, I mean, he's not, and he's also much like in the same conversation as Donta Foreman. Ahmed has also flashed at times when he has been given the opportunity. So, I mean, he's not a bad backup option, fill your bench type guy in deeper leagues, like in 12-team leagues where you have thin benches, or 14-team leagues, for example, which I've been in. Ahmed might not be a bad actual play, but yeah, that's it. Because, hey, the Dolphins like to run the ball, and like you said, if Wilson wasn't activated today, I mean, Mostert, You know what? I'm going to ride Mostert until the wheels fall off. It's just the unfortunate thing is the wheels have fallen off basically every year. So
Well,
I'm almost like holding my breath with Raheem Mostert.
No, you're not wrong. Got a question from Joe Buttafuoco in the chat. We'll get to the questions, fantasy football questions, in a little bit. We'll answer those. So welcome, Joe, George. We got Thunderwolf in the house. Click subscribe, notifications on. Leave those messages in the chats. Share the link. Let's get the party going here. And on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SNS Ali, at SickPodBrowns. Use the hashtag AskAndy. Some other news, Sam Laporta, who the unicorn show of like a rookie tight end that is fantasy relevant, is going to be a true game time decision. Calf injury. He's listed as questionable, but they're going to gauge him in the pregame workout to finalize. Schefter says he is trending in the right direction, but we know those calf things show you get the wrong little tweak. Let's just say this. I would have a backup plan if Laporta's your tight end.
I did see that Jeff Darlington had tweeted out that he was likely to play, like that the plan is for him to be active, but like you said, you know what they say about best laid plans. So it's possible he goes out there and warm ups, and like Schefter is saying, it doesn't feel great, and they shut him down because he has been probably one of the most exciting young players to watch all year, essentially. So I'm sure they're not gonna take any risks with Sam Laporta. And you know what? I guess the Lions are 4-1, so that means they can essentially afford to be a little risk or a little more cautious. It's kind of wild to think, Andy, that if you look at the NFC power rankings, after the Eagles and 49ers, the best team in that conference might be the Lions, like the next best team. Which I don't think I've been able to say like my entire adult life, essentially.
No, like maybe like 1 year with Matthew Stafford, like maybe that they were like quasi. No, you're right. We just got a weather report in from our buddy Grant, who's going to the Browns game. He's in Cleveland. Shared a video. It is dark clouds, overcast, no rain at the moment, but it poured yesterday and looks like it could get nasty real quick. So again, for the Browns' sake, Joe, keep raining, all of it. Slop fest. Sloppier the better.
So here's the thing, though, that when it rains, Andy, that usually plays into the running game's hands. And the 49ers have some guy named Christian McCaffrey back there.
Damn it. All right, well, hold on. We need can we call him a lightning strike? Not to hurt him too bad. Just not for the game. He'll be fine. God. All right, let's go. Seahawks, Bengals. Bengals 2-3. Show, don't look now. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase starting to look like their old selves here. And this is a big game with Seattle coming to town. Bengals win. They're right back in that division conversation in the AFC North.
You know what? I think Burrow looked much better last week. He looked like himself. He did not look like the calf was. I mean, maybe it was still bugging him a little bit, but it didn't look like it was hampering him to like the incredible degree it was in the first 3 weeks or so of the season. That was wild how much he could not throw or plant or whatever, but he looked great last week. So I think you feel okay starting him. The Seahawks secondary beyond Devin Witherspoon, who's been a great rookie and could very well win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, he is great, but he can only cover one guy at a time, and the rest of the Seahawks secondary has been okay at best. I think you feel okay about starting Jamar Chase, certainly. I'm not sure how I feel. I'm curious what you think on this, Andy, about starting T. Higgins today, because so all the reports are that he will play. He did get a bunch of limited practices in. It looks like he will at least suit up, but my problem with Zach Taylor has been, since he has been the Bengals coach, often we'll say a guy plays, whether it's Joe Mixon or Burrow or Chase or Higgins, mostly Higgins, that he's a decoy. Like he'll go out there and not get like more than 2 or 3 targets and will give you a big fat 0 in your lineup. I actually have Tiggins, a number of shares of Tiggins in a couple of leagues. I think I'm going to bench him in at least one league if I can afford to, just because I am afraid of him going out there and just putting up a big fat 0.
It could be, and it's a rib injury. So that's a weird one because you can have like, they have like those like, looks like bulletproof vests, like those flak jackets on. Right. But the ribs are like, if you get tackled and you land or get hit the wrong way, like you could be done for the game like that. Like I've never had broken ribs. I hope I don't. It is apparently just like you can't breathe, right? Like it's super painful. So I'm with you. It could be a bit of a decoy, or heck, they throw him the ball, first catch gets hit, out.
Yeah,
right. Like
I'm a little concerned about it. Only because they've done it before. If it had never happened before, I would have said, you know what, roll the dice on old T. Higgins. I don't know. This week, I just feels like you probably. The unfortunate thing is, this is not like years past when T. Higgins was drafted in the 5th or 6th round or the 6th or 7th round. Most people probably drafted both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in the first 3 or 4 rounds, probably.
Yeah.
Right. So you kind of have to play T. Higgins if you have him. But I really hope that you can at least afford to consider benching him because he has been. It's not bad because he did catch the 2 touchdowns in that one game early on in the season. But boy, it's just with the injuries makes it a little dicey.
Well, and I'm wondering with the Seahawks because we see 3-1, 2-0 on the road, and they're traveling to Cincinnati. You're like, okay, and you have they lost week 1, signature win against the Lions, 37-31, big win there. But then you beat the Panthers and the Giants. Like, that's not impressing anybody, Show. So it's kind of a strange situation where it's like, all right, when we're looking at the Seahawks, where are we going with? I've been surprised, pleasantly so, with Kenneth Walker. His production has been, quite frankly, shocking. I thought that was going to be just like super duper committee, and it turns out not yet. Tyler Lockett, single-digit, multiple efforts. Jackson Smith and Jigba, pretty borderline. DK Metcalf, it's not the same explosiveness that we saw last year with Geno Smith.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's not like you can afford to bench all of Lockett, Metcalf, and Geno. I think you would pretty much have to start Kenneth Walker every week, obviously, because like you said, he's been phenomenal. He's been one of the most. He's gotten for a running back who has Zach Charbonnet there and a couple other guys. He hasn't ceded that many touches, so you're right. It's not really a committee, which is great news for fantasy. So if you have Kenneth Walker, you feel pretty good about it. But you look at the passing game. All of the pass catchers have been kind of mediocre, and Geno has been kind of mediocre as well. So I mean, I think of all of them, I feel the best about starting DK because he's just such a freak that for the most part, those guys will win out. But it has been so much of a roller coaster. I almost feel like I'm treating all of them as WR2s at best, like for the best possible scenario. And honestly, for most of the season, they've been WR3s, which is kind of unfortunate for both DK and Lockett. Even Geno, kind of a back-end QB2 this week. And again, maybe that changes, maybe that turns around. And if you're in a super flex league, for example, you probably have no choice but to start Geno Smith, especially if your other quarterbacks are guys like Aaron Rodgers or Anthony Richardson, for example. So I think Geno is getting started by a lot of people, but you're not going to get a lot of fantasy production probably unless things drastically change. It really does feel like it's become Kenneth Walker a fantasy first team.
Who would have saw that? And you probably got him at a good value too. Like he wasn't going in the first round.
No, it wasn't.
Right. We'll do one more game, then we'll get to the questions, and then we'll zing back to it. Panthers at the Dolphins. Oh boy, Show. Ooh Lord. 0-5 Panthers, 4-1 Dolphins at home. The line right now is Miami 14-point favorite. Show I might take that and then some. Like that. Oh, outside of Adam Thielen, do I want anybody on the Panthers? Like, I don't think so. Do you want anyone else on the Panthers if it's not Adam Thielen?
No, not even Bryce Young, unfortunately. Young, and you know what? Here's the thing. Bryce Young, people keep crapping on old Bryce Young, especially because C.J. Stroud has played so well and Anthony Richardson looked great until he got hurt. But I kind of feel bad for the guy. I mean, the offensive line is terrible. It's truly terrible. The play calling has not been great when Bryce Young is on the field because Andy Dalton came in for that one game and he actually looked pretty competent. So I wonder if the play calling has been a little different for old Bryce Young. But beyond that, when the offensive line is terrible, he doesn't have time to throw. He's a smaller guy. The running game can't really get going. Miles Sanders, I think a lot of people thought he'd be getting the lion's share of the touches, and he has been, but hasn't been able to do much with it. It's a mess in Carolina right now, and I probably would feel okay about starting only Adam Thielen, I think. Well, Jonathan Mingo has flashed, but Jonathan Mingo is like a start in like 16-team leagues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like you're playing DraftKings, you're like filling out the end of your lineup because it needs the cheapest possible guy. That's when you're playing Jonathan Mingo, and that's probably it.
That's probably it. And Miles Sanders, by the way, folks, is out. He will not play. Chuba Hubbard has been super ordinary. 9 carries last week. Like he hit 10 fantasy points in week 2, the rest single digits. The guy that actually sort of I was tracking this show is interesting. And I think, at least on like a DraftKings flex, contrarian play and all that, and super desperation mode, Laviska Shenault, remember him with the Jacksonville Jaguars? The weapon, he sort of was like that Swiss Army knife, but never really did anything. He was always kind of there. Laviska Shenault had 5 carries last week, okay, when Sanders was out, and he's explosive. He can catch. He could be a bit of a dark horse play this week. Laviska Shenault. I'm going to check in a minute on the if there's any like prop plays for Laviska Shenault, like total yards. I think that could be an interesting spot for him where Chuba Hubbard will probably get the traditional carries. Yep. Shenault could work himself in. That's someone I'm looking at today.
By the way, Andy, quick update on the Ravens-Titans London game. Zay Flowers just catching a touchdown for Baltimore. So Baltimore up 15-3 with a couple minutes to go in the second half. So Zay Flowers looking pretty good. There was a question for me. I don't know about you, but there was a question for me as to how Flowers would coexist with Mark Andrews, who we know Mark Andrews is like the guy in Baltimore. Apparently the answer is he can coexist.
It's fine.
Apparently the passing game of Lamar Jackson can actually sustain more than one pass catcher. Also, Odell Beckham Jr., favorite player, caught a really nice catch and run. It looked very pretty by OBJ.
He's got his ACL will fall out of his shoe next play. Good Lord. Don't get me started, Show. I'm trying to find the Laviska Shenault if there's any prop. That might be a little inside the weeds even for DraftKings there. Yeah,
I feel like the odds maker is probably like,
I'm not bothering with that one. Oh, there's nothing for him. Damn it. Well, there goes my danger zone pick. I was going to go for if you can find something with Laviska Shenault. Yeah, I don't think it's there. I can't blame them. That's a bit in depth. But if you can find something with Laviska Shenault, I'd say take a shot at it. Okay, let's get to a couple questions. We'll zing back to the games. Let's go to hashtag Ask Andy. Let's do it. And we're going to go. There we go. We'll get to Twitter. We'll get to the questions in the chat. Let's go to the questions in the chat here. We got George Play 01, Tua or Fields? Tua or Fields today? It's a great question, Show, because first of all, I don't think you're going to be having a bad day regardless of what happens here. I would say, you know what? I'm almost in a position where if the Dolphins get up too much, there could be a problem and maybe he gets pulled out. Where Fields uses his legs more, that's tricky. I'm going to say, just based on matchup, go with Tua. Again, you're not going to be in a bad spot either way. We'll try to get Show back on. I think there's a bit of a connection issue. Yeah, I think you go with Tua. Go with Tua against the Vikings for Field. Again, I think you'll be fine, but it's a division opponent, so it might be a little tougher. Go with Tua here. Joe Batafuco in the chat room there. Again, click notifications, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It says Hollywood, so Hollywood Brown or Gabe Davis. I also have Diggs and Cup. Ooh. Well, do you want to double up on Bills? That's always a little dicey, right? If you're doubling up on the one guy. But Bills at Giants, man, that's a good looking matchup. And the Cardinals, am I trusting? Do I want to trust Hollywood Brown? You know what? I typically don't like doubling up on receivers like that, but I think you do. I think you do Gabe Davis. That's just the Bills are favored by 50. Giants are just terrible. Like, good Lord. They're just so bad, right? So I think you go Gabe Davis. There he is. Hey, Show. All right. There we are. Yeah, the question
came from my internet connection, Andy.
Odell Beckham. His dad got confused. He's supposed to come for me. Odell Sr. got me and got you instead. I just ran through a couple questions here, Show. Get your quick take. Tua or Fields? We talked about that Miami-Carolina game. Fields versus the Vikings. I didn't think you could go wrong either way, but I chose Tua.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, if you want to be less risk averse, it's got to be Tua. right? Just because Tua has been so consistent. Don't get me wrong, like the ceiling for Justin Fields is incredibly high, and we've seen the ceiling. The ceiling is right about there in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, if you want to be a little more less risky, I should say, yeah, Tua's got to be the guy, right? I mean, I feel like it's hard. It's going to be hard to bench Tua versus any quarterback this season. I mean, Tua could very well finish the year, like unless your other quarterback is Josh Allen. Even Patrick Mahomes, you might even if the question was Tua or Mahomes, I might legitimately say Tua for a lot of games this year.
As of right now, there's still that sort of looming cloud of injury that could always strike that we haven't seen Tua be able to overcome his whole career. If he does this year, then good on him. Let's bring up a couple of Twitter questions here. At AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns, at SNS Ali, use hashtag AskAndy. We got from at STW1423. Ryan, in a jam this week, every week, start Elijah Moore or upside of JSN. So Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, half PPR, 10-man league. I would think with a 10-man league, you should probably have a bit better option on the waiver wire.
I mean, more than either of these, it must have either really deep benches, like really long deep benches, or he has the best running backs in the world. Like he must have like 4 great running backs if jam is Elijah, or maybe just a lot of injuries this year, which I suppose is possible. But boy, I mean, if those are your options, I guess Elijah Moore. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure you're getting more than
nothing.
Are you getting more than I don't know, 5 points from either of these guys max? Probably not, unfortunately.
I don't I would rather go with if KJ Osborne is sitting out there. Obviously, we just talked about him. Josh Downs of the Colts, I really like. Remember, Anthony Richardson too. By the way, I don't know if you saw this show. Anthony Richardson of the Colts. There's talk he could be done for the year.
I saw this. Yeah.
Right. Like this is Minshew mania back. So here's the thing with Josh.
I'm just looking at Andy. I'm looking at I'm looking at my 10-team league. I'm in a number of leagues. One of them is a 10-team league, right?
Okay.
I'm just looking. Here are some of the free agent wide receivers in this particular league. So someone dropped Tutu Atwell when Cooper Kupp came back. Right. Kendrick Bourne, certainly. We mentioned Jonathan Mingo with the Panthers. DJ Chark, also with the Panthers. You got Michael Gallup. Wan'Dale Robinson actually might not be a bad play, considering that, I don't think anyone really knows which wide receiver is WR1 in New York. Like, I would probably take any of those guys above both Elijah Moore and JSN.
Yeah, like those are good options there. The Josh Downs thing, again, I like this combo. Here's why, show. So he caught all 6 passes that were thrown to him last week, but 4 of those came when Gardner Minshew came on in relief of Anthony Richardson. So he got 97 yards, just shy of 16 fantasy points. 2 weeks prior, he saw 12 targets, 8 receptions, 13.7 fantasy points. So it looks like you could continue to add to that role, especially if there's some chemistry building between him and Minshew. Certainly a great DFS play. So I would look as well, Ryan, if Josh Downs is out there before I play any of those guys.
I like that one. Yeah, Josh Downs is a pretty good one. Minshew has looked his way, and there's clearly some kind of trust there, which is important. Yeah. So, yeah, I think knowing that Michael Pittman's going to get a lot of targets, Josh Downs has been pretty productive for a guy who you had no expectations for. I would take Downs over probably both Moore and JSN as well.
Yeah, he's going to get some secondary coverage. So it could be a good opportunity. Let's see another tweet here. Hashtag AskAndy, at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns, at SNS Ali. Oh, Thunderwolf, you're hitting my heartstrings here. Baker Mayfield versus Detroit or CJ Stroud versus New Orleans. Show, by the way, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are wearing, for the first time since 2012, their throwback creamsicle orange outfits with the little winking pirate on the helmet.
I like those uniforms.
They're neat. It's like a saucy pirate. It's like, yeah. And the Buccaneers stunk until they changed it to the much cooler crossbones. But before it was like, he's kind of like a Johnny Depp pirate. Like, he's a pirate, but he's not hurting anybody. He's a little rascal, right? That's what that pirate was. I would say, like, show, as much as, I love myself some bake. CJ Stroud's the obvious choice. The guy hasn't thrown a damn interception, and he's playing lights out.
The New Orleans, I understand the question because the New Orleans defense is pretty gnarly, but at the same time, Baker He's been fine. He's been fine. I don't think he's been bad by any means.
3-1.
He is also playing a very good defense, right? So I guess if the quarterbacks are the defenses they're playing are similarly tough, I think you just go with the quarterback who has been better on the year. And the truth is, C.J. Stroud has been better than Baker Mayfield this year, which honestly I have to say is incredibly impressive because Baker Mayfield is throwing to guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and has Rashad White standing by him, whereas C.J. Stroud has who? Like Tank Dell. They just signed
Nico Collins.
Schultz. Yeah, and hey, Tank Dell and Nico Collins have been great. If you have them in dynasty leagues or keeper leagues, I think you're going to be very happy with those guys. But good heavens, I mean, I think most people would take Mike Evans over anyone on the Texans, right? So I'm pretty impressed with Stroud, but even against a tough defense, maybe even one of the best defenses, I think I might still take Stroud.
And I have to say too, with the knowing Baker as well as we do as Browns fans, whenever Baker does really well in the NFL and he starts doing the talk show circuit, college game day, getting real cocky, he doesn't handle success very well at the professional level. There's usually a drop the next game. And you're playing the Lions, who we talked about show is third best in the NFC. Like, I could also see this as just a coming back to earth moment for Baker Mayfield. So yeah, again, I'll go CJ Stroud.
Cool. Yeah, I'm in with you, man.
I hope I'm wrong because if he beats the Lions, then we have to start talking. When's the best time for me to put up my autographed Baker Mayfield rookie card up on the market? We got to strike while it's hot.
The best time, Andy. The best time was when he started his first ever game, and then the second best time was after he got cut from the Browns. Remember when he got sent to the Rams, and everyone doubted him, and then like on prime time he authored like some insane comeback win. That was crazy. That was the next best time.
Damn it. Okay, so maybe I won't miss the next window. Let's go back to the chat here. You can jump in here in the live stream. Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara from Trent. Trent's in there. Morning, guys. Morning, Trent. Half PPR. Stay with questionable Sam Laporta with the calf, or plug in Kmet, or someone on waivers like Ertz or Henry off waivers. Thanks. Great question here, Trent. The Sam Laporta we mentioned earlier in the show, it says he's going to be a true game time decision. Says he's trending in the right direction. Whenever show, it depends on how you look in the pregame warmup. That really frightens me because if you're wrong, and remember, this is a 4:25 game. Right. So if you miss on this, let's see where the other guys go. Bears, Vikings is 1 o'clock. So if you go with Laporta, you'd miss out on Kmet. Ertz is with the Cardinals. That's also 4:25. And
would be my pick, I think, just because of the time.
Yeah, Ertz because you can get a little closer. Kmet, even so, like he hasn't. Like it seems like all the targets are going still to DJ Moore if it's the Bears, right? Like they're still. Let me pull up in real quick.
No, it's true.
You know what? In fairness, he's had 3 touchdowns the last 2 games. Interesting. That surprised me.
No, the only problem is that the Bears play at 1 o'clock and the Cardinals play at 4:25. And I think if your choice was between Kmet and Laporta, like knowing they're going to, let's say you knew they were both going to play. If your choice is between those two, you would pick Laporta, right? So and which makes sense if most people would. So if that's the case, then do you really want to risk it with Kmet? Because the other thing is, I always am a little wary, Andy, of players who are touchdown dependent. Right, and because if Kmet had not scored even 1 touchdown, then the yardage and the receptions not really there. Trent's asking for a half PPR league, so boy, I don't know. I think Zach Ertz has gotten so many targets that I think I would rather roll with Ertz just in case. And assuming Henry is Hunter Henry, and let's put it this way: no one wants any part of the New England offense. No one wants one part of that offense. So pass on Henry for now.
Yeah, no, that's good Lord, no. Okay, so there we go. I'll agree with that. Keep Laporta in, but track it. If he can't go with Ertz. So you're going to be having to pay real close attention to that 4:25. That's really what it comes down to. Good on Kmet, though. Kind of popped out of there. Good on him. We've been waiting for him to break out. Colts, Jags. We talked a bit about the Colts and Josh Downs being a nice play. Pittman 2. Jags 3-2. They're back from London, so they don't have the 2-0 in London, so pretty good there. Yeah, I don't think we get too crazy with the Jay. It's Ridley, it's Kirk. Interdivision game, which is always tricky. They played them week 1. This is the second time they played. Important game for that AFC South. So yeah, I'll say kind of usual suspect. Etienne's been nice. Nothing too crazy there.
Yeah, I think it's true. I don't think this is going to blow anyone's socks off with any like deep plays, for example. But yeah, I will say I think the idea of starting Jonathan Taylor is fascinating because he was supposed to be great, and he comes in last week and got what, less than 10 carries, and it wasn't that he was bad. It just he didn't see the field all that much, and Zach Moss was ridiculous once again. So I don't be dropping Zach Moss at all if you can help it. And on top of that, I it's going to be tougher to parse out, Andy, who should start between Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, or who you should start in your fantasy team.
Yeah.
I think you probably feel okay starting them both just until we get some more clarity, because how many people would hate to bench Zach Moss again and then he like blows up for 100 total all-purpose yards, for example?
Right. And the Colts coaches said this week that the team will look to, quote, ramp up Jonathan Taylor's workload in week 6. That's the trouble. You have a guy coming in. What does ramp up mean? Is that full workload that we're used to with Jonathan Taylor? Is it ramped up to half and half?
Right.
Where do you go with this? That's the big unknown. So yeah, I think if you have one or the other, you're probably in a position, where you got to start both of them, like not on the same team, but if you have one or the other, start them. And You're just going to have to see where it falls out. Like, you don't want to be in a position either where Jonathan Taylor gets 20 carries, right? And you're like, oh man, I missed out on that. So
have you ever seen a fantasy team, or have you ever done this yourself, where you've started both running backs on the same team? Like, have you ever done that? Like, remember when for the Panthers, when D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart were like the two guys, and it'd be like D'Angelo Williams right up until the 5-yard line, and then Jonathan Stewart would just blast it in. Have you ever done something where you started both those guys on the same fantasy team?
I did it, I'm sure, once Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt for the Browns.
Okay.
Like, probably, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, probably something like that, when both were like getting their touches and kind of rolling. So I'd say probably that, but certainly it's not the norm, right?
Yes.
It's not the norm. Let's look Sunday Night Football. Boy, we talk about the Dolphins putting the boots to the Panthers. Show, what is the score going to be? Bills, Giants. Bills favored by 15. Oh, man.
Yeah, the Bills, I got to say, the Bills have lost essentially an important part of their defense every week, it feels like. Like, every single week. Like, Matt Milano out, Trey White out, Daquan Jones out. They already lost Tremaine Edmonds in the offseason when he signed with the Bears. So this is one of the best defensive units in the NFL. And Sean McDermott's actually doing a pretty good job calling the plays. But, I mean, like, defenses can only sustain so many injuries, Andy, and the next man up, do your job kind of thing can only go so far until you start seeing different results. I wonder if that's going to be the case tonight. I mean, we're hearing that Saquon Barkley, they're going to try and get him to play. Daniel Jones is going to play, so I suppose that bodes well if you're a Giants fan for this Battle of New York. But good heavens, Andy, the Bills. I mean, it's not really a question as to whether or not it's going to be Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis cooking there, but it's more of a question of, can the Bills' defense be as good as it has been? Probably yes, because the Giants have been kind of bad so far this year. But if both Daniel Jones and Saquon play, then that's it. I think it'll be closer. Like, I don't think I would take the 15-point spread.
Right. That's what kind of jumped out to me. And Daniel Jones with that neck too. Like, you're one play away from. He's technically ruled as out, show, but yeah, there's reports that he's going to play. So either way, you're one shot away from Tyrod Taylor coming in. Right? Like, that's. And if Saquon isn't at 100%, not like Matt Breida has done anything special, I could see, like you're saying, like, the Bills are at 3-2. Obviously disappointing to the season. I wonder with all those defensive injuries long term how they go. They're going to win this game, but will it be by 15? And I'm seeing the weather. We talk about the weather. 51 Fahrenheit, nighttime, rain. That's going to be nasty. That's going to be an ugly, cold game.
Ian Rappaport had said I had missed this, that Daniel Jones is officially out. So I thought it was kind of like they were just waiting to activate him or something. But no, he's out. It's okay. I take it back. Bills are gonna roll the Giants. But here's the thing. Here's my question then. If they do that, because I think you could probably feel good about starting Stephon Diggs because he's been phenomenal all season long and has been for virtually his entire career. And Gabe Davis has picked it up certainly as well. Do you still feel good about starting James Cook? Because James Cook has been someone I thought would be good, but he hasn't been that consistent from a fantasy perspective.
No, and here's the thing. Okay, now again, we have to take the bad weather into it. If it's a bad weather, theoretically, you should be running the ball more, and hopefully, if you're a Bills fan, that's not all Josh Allen. You had James Cook, decent week 1, 3 great fantasy performances, stinker last week in London. You should, with this weather, and assuming you get up big, be handing the ball to James Cook to run the clock out. So I think James Cook, I think you start him this week, Show. I think you do. Okay. Like if it's Tyrod Taylor, he's a good game manager, but when you get down, he was in Cleveland. When you get down, he's not getting you back up.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with Taylor. It's just, I don't know that he's going to be the arm that you win or lose games on. He's just kind of
in bad weather. In bad weather. Right? He's smart. But who's the, just for fun, who's the third string? Because Tyrod, whatever, gets injured quite often as well, including he'll run and he can be sneaky kind of fantasy good from time to time. But he also tweaks hamstrings all the time. And the next man up here, Show, Tommy DeVito.
I have no idea who that is.
I'm hoping, let's see.
Is he related to Danny DeVito?
He's a bit taller. He's 6'2", 210. So the taller cousin or nephew of Danny DeVito. Tommy DeVito's picture, his profile picture shows a guy I'm a quarterback. It's sure you are, Tommy. Sure you are, pal. So aren't all we a quarterback at heart, Tommy DeVito? That's what his picture says to me. I'm playing quarterback.
Well, then if either Taylor or DeVito see any action tonight, and obviously it's going to be Tyrod Taylor to start at least, then can you really play any Giants wide receiver with confidence, even against an injury-depleted Bills? No, I would think, right?
Oh, my, no. No, even with Daniel Jones, I don't.
That's true, too, actually, yeah.
Let's finish off with this show, then we'll get to our Danger Zone pick, our best bet of the week. Cowboys versus Chargers, Monday Night Football. Big matchup for each team. Chargers coming off the bye. Cowboys losing. People calling for Dak Prescott said McCarthy said they're on the road, but we know the Chargers also find ways to give games away. I wonder if this could be a fun little shootout here. Austin Eckler's supposed to be back for the Chargers. You're playing him, even if it is going to be a limited workload. And for the Cowboys, outside of CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard, who have been capped fantasy-wise the last couple weeks, I think that's kind of it for me for the Cowboys. I don't know if I want to play Jake Ferguson. I think it's kind of those guys, and I don't want to start Dak if I don't have to.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, right? It feels as though the fantasy upside of a lot of people in this offense have been capped. Certainly by Dak Prescott, but almost by the Mike McCarthy play calling, which was, it's the same kind of conversation we were having as a group, when Mike McCarthy was coaching Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, right? So I think Rodgers was a better quarterback. Obviously, that's not a hot take than Dak Prescott is. Dak Prescott, I think, has shown that he is closer to being the guy who we all thought would be Tony Romo's backup than being the next star quarterback in the NFL. And it's not a knock on Dak. It's just there is, I think, a line of delineation between the top 7 or 10 quarterbacks and then everyone else, right? He might be in that 15 to 20 range or 12 to 17 range or whatever you want to call it, but yeah, I agree with you. I think the play calling and the abilities have kind of capped everyone's upside, but it doesn't mean you're not starting Tony Pollard or CeeDee Lamb. You're starting both those guys. It just for me probably means you're not starting Michael Gallup, for example, or Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, exactly. For the Chargers, Keenan Allen's been remarkable. I thought he was closer to glue factory than not. He's really popped. Mike Williams is. It seems like everything's been funneled to him. Josh Palmer's gotten a little bit of an uptick. He's a borderline flex. That's to me, it's Herbert, Allen, Eckler, and Everett and Parham have sort of neutered each other when it comes to the tight end spot. So I think just kind of the obvious suspects there, right?
Yeah, I think Joshua Kelly is still worth rostering, I suppose. But you know, just in case. But he obviously didn't do a lot when Eckler was out these last couple of weeks. But still worth a hold. It's probably still worth a hold for old Quentin Johnston because he was a highly picked rookie in the first couple of rounds. So by the Chargers. So you know, you always say follow the draft capital to a certain extent, Andy. So I think I wouldn't drop Quentin Johnston yet, but he's right in that that zone where you feel like you can't drop him because you don't want someone else to pick him up, but you can't really play him yet. So I think we're kind of wait and see on those other guys. But yeah, you're right. Keenan Allen, Herbert himself, and of course Austin Eckler.
Quentin Johnson this is his 4-week stat line. 2 catches, 1 catch, 2 catch, 1 catch, bye week. So he's due for 2.
I guess. At least 2.
He has not capped 18 yards. So if we're looking at best case, you're looking probably at a 6 fantasy point day, 6 to 7. At best. No, I'm sorry. That was his projection, Show. I'm sorry. At best, you're looking on average for his season 3 fantasy points.
I was going to say 6 seems generous at this point based on what we've seen.
That was the projection. Yeah, we're looking at about 3. So don't play Quentin Johnson. Okay. All right. Let's wrap up with our danger zone picks where we get dangerous. I want to know your danger zone picks. Let's go. There we go, Show. We got the sirens. We got the. I want to know your danger zone picks. What's your dangerous bet? Your bold bet of the week. You can hit us up in the comment section on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SNSLE, at SickPodBrowns, Instagram at AndyMCSports. Bold, dangerous pick as we enter the danger zone here. The DraftKings danger zone. Remember, folks, Sick Sports is your code to get a $200 play when you play $5. So Sick Sports, DraftKings, new guys, sign up. Get that for you. 6 sports, 200 when you play 5. Pretty sweet deal. The crown is yours. Who will it be this week? Show, where are you going with your danger zone pick? What are you liking today?
Real quick, Andy, before I give you my danger zone pick, Adam Schefter just tweeting out that Sam Laporta is expected to play today. So there you go.
Okay.
So you're going to feel good about playing old Sammy there against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My danger zone pick will be. And this might be one of my most dangerous picks because there's a real chance to completely bust, but I suppose that's why it's the danger zone, Andy. I am going with Patriots quarterback / wide receiver, Malik Cunningham. All right, Malik Cunningham was recently elevated to the 53-man roster, and I guess it's a little different in football. It's like you don't get called up like you do in baseball. You get signed to the 53-man roster. So he was signed to a 3-year deal. I believe it was yesterday or the day before. He'd already been practicing with the team all week, and there are reports coming out of Vegas where the Patriots are taking on the Raiders today that if there are more struggles with the New England offense, that Mac Jones will have a very, very short leash. So if that's the case, and we already seen him, I think each of the last 2 weeks he did not finish the game. Bailey Zappi got in there. But I wonder if we see some shenanigans schemed up by old Bill and by both Bills, Bill Belichick and Bill O'Brien. Yeah. So I will say my danger zone pick is it might be like LaVisca Chenault where there are no props for Malik Cunningham, but I will take whatever the over is for Malik Cunningham, and I will also say Malik Cunningham scores a touchdown at any time. Malik Cunningham touchdown.
You know what? I like that anytime touchdown play. And if you're the Patriots, Show, really, why not? What do you got to lose? You're going nowhere. For the first time ever.
Best this year. They might as well.
Yeah, it's the first time ever that Bill Belichick. It's like there's seems to be rumors of exit strategies, and that he could coach the Washington Commanders next year, and could be absolutely wild. We'll see. Okay, I like that. I'm going with this, Show, and I went to the Miami-Carolina game, and I went to what the highest. So there's the point spread. The Dolphins are favored by 14.5. So I went to the alternate spreads. What was the highest DraftKings would allow me to go? And the highest they allow me to go is 28.5. So I'm going with a alternate 28.5 point spread. I would have gone to 30 if I was allowed.
What was that? Like plus 1,000 or what?
Plus 436.
Okay.
Plus 436 for for the Dolphins to beat the Panthers by 28.5 or more points. So I'm going danger zone pick, full domination. If I could have gone higher, I would have hit 30 for sure. 28.5 is the highest available for the Dolphins to beat the Panthers. That's plus 436. So it's dangerous, but if I could go more dangerous, I would. I think that's pretty
the Panthers they've been really bad. They've been really bad. And now the Dolphins have, I guess I was going to say they're at full strength. They're not, because obviously a chain is injured, but they're as close to as full strength as they can be. And this is a team that puts up a boatload of points. It's going to be tough to cover 28.5, but if there's a team I believe can do it, it might be the Dolphins. It's either the Dolphins or the Bills against the Daniel Jones-less New York Giants.
Boy, well, if the Dolphins can put up 70 against the Broncos, they should be able to do it at home against the Panthers. So let us know your danger zone picks. Let us know any more fantasy football questions. Hashtag Ask Andy on Twitter, at AndyMC Sports, at SNSLE, at SickPodBrowns. Show, where can people find you, man? If Blue Jay season done, where can people find all your great work?
Yeah, SNS Alli with 2 L's on Twitter /X. So yeah, it's always fun. I get to do some writing for Sportsnet.ca, and we're now firmly, Andy, into the Sportsnet Tonights of the schedule on the radio station.
Yes.
So a lot more NFL coverage, a lot more general. The World Series is coming up. Certainly, a lot more NHL coverage. Austin Matthews has 2 hat tricks in 2 games. The Leafs might never lose again. So a lot of stuff to talk about in Toronto here.
Yes. Never again until the playoffs.
Yeah.
Until the early playoffs.
Probably.
All right, buddy. Good stuff. Thank you. We'll talk to you next week. All right, there you go. Shoaib Alli, my man. All right, kids. That'll do it. Let me know what you feel about for the Browns, okay? Apparently, Randy Gregory, who the 49ers acquired from the Broncos, is going to suit up. Just another rotational guy, but could be tough. Remember, no Joe Bitonio for the Browns. News with Deshaun Watson's shoulder. Could play against the Colts. We'll dive into that in Tuesday's show. Let's just hope the weather's bad and the Browns can capitalize, even though the 49ers can run the damn ball pretty well too. I'm not feeling too stressed about it. The Browns have done it before, like I said, a couple times in 2010 against juggernauts. Let's hope they're playing loose, free. Stefanski calls a good game for P.J. Walker. Let's see what the hell happens. All right. Enjoy the games. Good luck to your fantasy football teams. And as always, go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.